This is Warren Vanderhill interviewing Todd Murray for the Middletown Oral History Project. And Todd, I want to begin by thanking you for participating in the project. And I, obviously, as a historian, would like to begin with a history question, and that is that Murray's Jewelers of Muncie, Indiana has an interesting history going back several generations. So I want to begin the interview by asking you to tell me about this very unique story.
Yeah, Warren, well, you're welcome. Murray's Jewelers, my great-grandfather started the company in 1885, immigrated into Muncie in 1885. He had served a 5-year watchmaking apprenticeship over in Logansport and moved into Muncie. And his first shop was half watch shop and half harness shop. So you can imagine back in 1885 when people were riding around on horses and drawn up in horse and buggies and stuff, needing their harness repaired, and also then would have their watch examined or so in this small shop. Great-grandfather kind of partnered with this Harriet Jewelry Company, which was the also harness and stuff. So great-grandfather was the watchmaker, and that would have had to have been very interesting to see the people pulling up on horses and getting their watches serviced. And I still, back in 1885, I still do service some pocket watches that were made back in 1885 on the same watch bench that my great-grandfather worked on. And so that's pretty interesting. And to think that back in 1885, I think it was Wild Buffalo Bill Cody or so, and his Wild West show was going on around the country at that same time when he started. And then grandfather's son, great-grandfather's son, my grandfather, Robert Murray, joined great-grandfather after World War I and as a watchmaker. And then my father joined my grandfather after World War II as a watchmaker. And then my brother and I joined our father. We missed the Vietnam War, so we joined my father and my grandfather Steve joined in 1969. I was there in 72. Great-grandfather did his apprenticeship. I did an apprenticeship with my grandfather first when I was 16 in high school, and then went off to watchmaking school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and joined the company in 72. And now both of my sons have joined Steve and I in the business. So they're the 5th generation of doing this. They're the first generation not to be watchmakers. They are jewelry designers and manufacturers and gemologists, because we've had to evolve from just watchmaking and watch repair into something else, and now our focus is custom jewelry manufacturing and repair. Had we not evolved into this, who knows, we may not have stayed in business, because just trying to make a living and feeding 2 or 3 Murray families off of fixing watches probably would not have occurred.
Well, that's pretty remarkable when you think of 4 families that do quite well from an economic standpoint in one business.
One little shop.
That really is quite impressive. During the period before you decided to join the business, Muncie went through a great many business cycles. Good times, bad times. What do you think has sustained Murray's Jewelers?
Well, it's always been, Warren, it's always been craftsmen in the business. Watchmakers, basically, and now jewelry designers and manufacturers. So during the Depression, when jewelry sales of new jewelry pretty much stopped in Muncie, just new jewelry wasn't being sold very much, and most jewelry stores went out of business. Grandfather and great-grandfather continued to make a living by fixing watches and fixing jewelry and repairing jewelry. So that's how they made their payroll. We have some old ledgers that John Straw has digitized, and people can go and see those old ledgers, and we could actually see when the Depression really hit my great-grandfather and grandfather. Stock market crashed 29. It didn't really hit my grandfather and great-grandfather until 31. And you could really see the drop in sales. They would do, let's say, like maybe one week they were doing $280 worth of sales. And then in 1931, all of a sudden one month it just dropped down to about $80 a week, and then down to like $25 a week. But through that period, even though sales stopped, they were still able to repair. And so it's always been craftsmanship that has always kept us going through recessions and depressions and different things like that. So that's always been our key, is being craftsmanship.
Well, you know, when Robert and Helen Lynn came to Muncie in the 1920s to do the first of their Middletown studies, they divided the community into the business class and the working class. When you look at the history of Murray's Jewelers, at that time and even down into the present, is there that kind of class division as far as your customers, your clients?
Yeah, we will see. It's hard to say if it's for sure a class division or a perception of class division,
Okay.
but certainly in our jewelry store, when people think of us, they think about custom design and manufacturing.
Okay.
And so therefore, you'll get some people that think, okay, if I need something manufactured, I'm going to go to Murray's. It's going to maybe be a little bit more expensive because they're going to sit down and handcraft something for me. We also even noticed that back in the, I would say it was probably in the 19-teens, 1920s or so, when grandfather and great-grandfather were selling pocket watches. I had mentioned to you before, Warren, that when they had a showcase and they had pocket watch movements for sale and pocket watch cases for sale.
Right.
And you would have railroad men, the engineers, coming in and had to buy the highest quality movement they could for timekeeping, but then they would opt oftentimes for the low quality case because of money. So they had to have fine timekeeping, but they didn't have to put on the dog and make a big show of it. But then you might have the businessman come in and buy the least expensive movement, but the fanciest case, so that it would really put on the show and look good. So you'd see some different classes there. And we did see a lot of working class people come in to do business with us because they had to have things repaired. But then also people come to us for the higher end. We custom make $10,000 wristwatches nowadays too. So we did see some class.
Well, it reminds me of my own family, because my maternal grandfather owned a grocery store in Grand Haven, Michigan, and he had the finest gold pocket watch. My maternal grandfather was a spindle carver at Baker Furniture in Holland, Michigan, and he had a sort of, I'd say, low, even though he was a fine craftsman, but a lower class silver watch. Both of them I inherited and passed on to my son. But I know what you mean about that period in time, but that was a really important status symbol.
And you might have, it would be interesting to look at what was considered the lower quality pocket watch, to actually look in the movement and see if it wasn't possibly a high grade movement, but just a lower grade case.
Oh, okay.
That would be interesting to check out sometime. So you bring it into me, I'll look at it.
Yeah, I will, be happy to. Why did you and your brother Steve decide to become jewelers?
Well, Steve and I, of course, we had great-grandfather, grandfather, and father previous to us, and I apprenticed as a watchmaker for my grandfather and my father when I was 16 years old, attending Burris School. I was majoring in fine arts, and it just seemed like a natural thing for me to do. I didn't really ever think of anything else other than going into the jewelry business. And I think it was probably the same way with Steve, as far as he thought, okay, I'm just going to become a watchmaker and join Dad. So there wasn't much thought of anything else. I suppose after 3 generations of doing that, that was the natural thing for us to do. And then the next generation kind of did the same thing.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, is that true of what I call the young Murrays who are now in the store?
Ryan and James, my 2 sons, James knew, well, both of them apprenticed with me as wax carvers, building jewelry out of wax and then casting it into gold. They both apprenticed with me when they were 16 years old. And James knew right away in high school that he was going to attend the Gemological Institute of America to get his GIA degree and then join the company. Ryan went to IU to get his business degree, and halfway through his college career he decided to join the company, of which then he graduated with his business degree, entrepreneurship. So the 2 of them have made a nice combination, James with his gemology degree and Ryan with his business degree, because both of those 2 things have to go hand in hand. We have a scholarship that we provide for the county. Once a year we give a $2,500 scholarship to a high school student that's going to major in fine arts or business, because those 2 disciplines really go hand in hand for the jewelry store. And that's always been kind of that way. You have to be kind of a craftsman, maybe an artist, and also still have a pretty decent business sense about you, so that you can pay the bills and stay in business.
I've always been interested in external forces that impact businesses, be they large or small. And I think particularly of the history of jewelry businesses in Muncie and a lot of other communities, and how they responded to the malls, the coming of the malls in the 60s and 70s. Muncie jewelers decided as a group, you of course included, to stay downtown.
Yeah.
Why was that decision made?
Well, I think probably, number one, since all 8 of us jewelers, there were 8 jewelry stores in downtown Muncie, probably more jewelry stores per capita than Rodeo Drive had. It was
Yeah, that's probably true. Having been at Rodeo
within
Drive.
a 4-block area,
Yeah.
we had 8 jewelry stores, and they were all independently owned.
Yeah.
Malls tend to attract, have the chain operations,
Mm-hmm.
the big guys. Because if you go into the mall and you're a small family operation like we are, number one, you have to do their business hours.
Right.
Yeah, overhead is incredibly high.
Yeah.
And so you really can't do what we do as far as manufacturing out at the mall. And so I think a lot of it had to do simply because of rent out there and the hours. It would just kill a little family operation to put in the hours that they demand you to do into the mall. So I think most of all of us decided, well, no, we don't need to go out there. People are still coming to Muncie. And also there was strength in numbers. There were 8 of us within a 2-block area. So when people were looking for jewelry, there were probably only 3 jewelry stores in the mall, but there were 8 downtown. So we really had some strength in numbers, and it just worked out. And it's jewelry stores that are small operations and are manufacturers or so, we tend to become a little bit more of a destination type of company. Where people will come to you for what you do rather than coming to you because of where you're at. And that's a healthier business model anyway, to have people coming to you for what you do rather than where you're at, because where you're at, anyone can be there. But only certain people and businesses can actually do what you do, and people come to you for that particular service.
Well, now to what I call a big decision. Obviously, things are changing with throwaway watches, digital watches. And so it would seem to me that you had to make a major decision. And from an outsider's perspective now, as one of your customers, very satisfied customer by that, you went in the direction of fine custom jewelry. Now tell me about the background. What really went into that decision?
Yeah, when Steve and I joined the company, Steve joined in '69, I joined in '72. And we were doing a lot of watch repair, and that was our main focus, and we sold jewelry. We just purchased jewelry from big manufacturers and put it in the showcases and sold it. But the main business was watch repair, and as watches started to become disposable, Timexes were disposable, quartz watches started coming online, people stopped buying the old mainspring-driven watch that needed to be serviced every 3 or 4 years, so we started seeing the watch repair going down. And we decided we needed to do something because business was starting to slow down. And that's when we decided, well, Todd, you majored in art in school. Let's start manufacturing our own jewelry. It was kind of unheard of in the industry for a retail jeweler to become a manufacturer. Most of the experts in the industry said you couldn't do it. Most of them said, Todd, don't even try it because you can't do it. And I was just young enough and naive enough, I didn't know that I couldn't. I remember Dad, I don't think Dad even believed that we could go into jewelry manufacturing. So I borrowed some money, bought some casting equipment, went off to Dallas, Texas to learn the theory of lost wax casting, came back and became armed and dangerous at that point because I knew what to do, but I didn't necessarily know how to do it. So you learned on the fly. Steve went to another school to learn diamond setting and general jewelry repair, so between the 2 of us, I would do the designing and casting. Steve would set all the stones and repair the jewelry, and that really started separating us and we had some differentiation between us and the other jewelry stores around, is that Murray's were actually manufacturing jewelry. And it enables you to, somebody comes in with an odd-shaped stone that you can't buy a particular mounting for that stone from a big manufacturer, so you just sit down and hand make it. And now that's become a huge part of our business, and probably the reason why we're still in business in downtown Muncie because of manufacturing. Because if, again, like if I were to move out to the mall, I would not be able to sit down and spend the hours that we do handcrafting jewelry, because you just got to be moving merchandise to make the rent. So
where does, to me, the highest tech aspect of this, computer-assisted design, where does that come into the picture?
That came into the picture technically 6 years ago when I went off to a convention saw that CAD systems and milling was now being manufactured to a point where a small operation like us could afford it.
Oh, okay.
Whereas before
Right.
it took millions of dollars to buy a CAD system and $1 million, like at Delaware Machine or so.
Right, yeah, right, yeah.
Big operations. Now they
Yeah.
actually miniaturized it so where we could actually afford to buy a CAD system and a mill to mill incredible small tolerances.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we actually manufacture our own watch now, is pocket watches and wristwatches are made because of the CAD system. Prior to that, I would not have been able to hold the tolerances that I need
Yeah.
to build a watch case.
Oh.
And so that occurred in 6 years ago, and now we're doing more and more, and we're now looking into the possibility of moving on to growing machines and holograms and different things like that.
Well, that fits nicely with my next question, which is, now that you have an internet presence, where do your customers come from?
And we do actually, the majority of our customers still come from Muncie, Delaware County, and surrounding counties. But we do business in 35 different states and a couple different countries.
Okay.
And that's because of the internet.
Yeah.
When Ryan and James's high school friends and college friends moved off to different parts of the country, now we can do business with them.
Yeah.
We can send them email pictures of diamonds and email pictures of wax models, and we can send them movies of CAD designs and stuff. We did one ring for a gentleman who was an F-16 pilot in Seoul, South Korea. Never have met the guy yet, but we've done some business with him, built him 2 or 3 different items, all because of him telling us what he wanted. We would create it on the CAD, send him an email of that picture, and actually he could actually move it around in 3 dimension, and then send us back. He'd say, well, Todd, can you change this, change this? Yeah, you make the change, send it back to him. He says, that's perfect, make it. He'd pay us, we'd make it, and we send it to him.
Are any of Muncie's other, what I call downtown jewelers, doing this kind of thing?
No, not really. It's one of those things that the only reasons we were really able to do it was because there was enough Murrays to do it. If you're a sole proprietor in a jewelry store, Warren, and you're in charge of sales, paying the bills, trying to do some repair or whatever, you just can't do it. Since I was the main person on designing, Steve was the stone setter, and now both of our sons, both of my sons are in the business. We're able to spread the workload out to where we usually custom manufacture on average 15 pieces a week. And that's because I'm doing the waxes, and I cast them, and I give them out to the guys, they polish them, they set the stones, and we're able to do it. And most of your regular jewelry store operators just don't have that capability. It's just impossible for them to do it.
There's a lot of breadth in terms of the talent base that you have there at Murray Jewelers.
Yeah, James with his gemology degree, Ryan with his business degree, Steve and I both with our craftsmanship, and we can spread the workload out and get it done.
I'm intrigued with the downtown architecture, if you will, because I know we've talked about this before. The building you're in, you now own the entire building. And I guess my question is, tell me a bit about how you acquired the entire building and how important that building is in your complete economic structure of the business.
Yeah, in 1986, Bernard Friend, who a lot of people will know, the Friend family, they owned the building. We moved into the building in 1972, and around 1985 or so, Bernard came to us and said, guys, it's time for this building to move. We think you should buy it. And we thought, we don't know if we really want to get into the landlord business. But then we heard through the grapevine that someone else was looking at the building and they were going to turn it into housing. And we thought, okay, we better get this thing bought. So we bought it from Bernard Friend on contract from him. And at that point, Warren, the first floor had 3 businesses in it, the jewelry store and a couple others. The second floor only had 1 of the offices occupied, and the entire 3rd floor was completely vacant. The first level, the first floor of the building, created enough revenue to pay the mortgage. That left us 2/3 of the building left to potentially turn a profit. We weren't turning a profit at that point because we were just covering the bills. So then we slowly started renting out the 2nd floor, and the 3rd floor was one big, huge room, 5,000 square feet of open space. And so we subdivided that into 12 different offices. So now we have 23 offices in the building, and it's usually running around 85% to 90% occupied. So that keeps the cash flow
Yeah.
coming into the, it's separated. We have the jewelry store as a corporation and the building as a partnership. But the jewelry store rents space from the partnership.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And therefore we don't have to worry about a landlord coming to us and saying, guys, your rent's going up,
Yeah.
and or you're going to lose your spot. Someone else is moving in.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't have to worry about where we're going to be. We know we can be there for forever now.
Mm-hmm.
And also the cash flow from the different rentals helps keep the roof in good shape.
Yeah.
And pay all the bills, because there's always something you have to do to a building that was built in 1903.
Yeah. So, but it's fair to say it really is an important revenue stream.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. Helped pay for both the boys' college.
Yeah, right. Okay, I like that. You obviously have a very, very deep commitment to downtown Muncie, which is a part of the community that has experienced amazing changes since the 1960s and 70s when I came here. It's gone from a vibrant business center to an area that is really an ongoing struggle, or a story of ongoing struggle. Mm-hmm. How much has that impacted your business?
Well, it certainly did impact us, I'd say early on, especially in the late 60s, when we were in the Johnson building on the second floor. That's a period of time when the mall finally moved into Muncie, and we started losing. J.C. Penney's moved out of downtown. Woolworths, we were on the second floor of the Johnson building, and Woolworths was on the first floor. Yeah. Woolworths left, Walgreens left, everything started changing, and Dad decided we needed to get down onto the main floor, onto the main street. Right. And so that's when we moved to where we are now, in 1972. And we saw the pedestrian mall be put into downtown, and that didn't work well, and then we saw the pedestrian mall get ripped out. And during all this time, we're just sitting there doing watch repair and fixing rings and doing our regular jewelry thing. And as the downtown continued to go up and down and up and down, we just kind of stayed steady and just did what we did. And now we see the downtown as being, it's never going to be what it once was.
It's not going to be the 1960s, 70s downtown.
Yeah, 1950s and 60s when you'd go downtown and you had to hang on to your mom's hand because there was such a crowd you'd get lost. It's never ever going to be like that again, but it can be a nice place for destination shopping. You go to a jewelry store, us or the other jewelers that are down there. There are actually 5,500 people that actually work downtown.
Sure. Yeah.
And so that's an amazing amount of people to draw from. There's more and more restaurants now. There's more people living downtown. So it's just different than it was, and it will always, it will never get back to where that it was. But it's good for us. And it's again, it's low rent for us because we own our own building, so our overhead isn't high. So we can continue to focus on what we do and provide that service for the people of Muncie and the surrounding area. And those people have been very kind to the Murray family of coming in and doing business with us and letting us hand make jewelry for them. We had a farming family come in a few months ago that said, Todd, can you this lady, they have a big dairy operation, and they wanted a solid gold cowbell pendant made. Can you make a solid gold cowbell pendant? Sure, yeah, we can. So we made it, and it has a little white gold clanger on the inside, and then it just dings real pretty. And that's something that you just can't get at a regular jewelry store. You just had to come to somebody that's going to sit down there and handcraft it, and we handcraft things like that because we can afford to, mainly because of where we're at. So I think we'll always be downtown.
Yeah. Well, to put a little bit of a different spin on that, how important is it for your total business picture to have a vibrant downtown in Muncie, Indiana?
It's not absolutely crucial for us because of the fact that people will come to us because of what we do. But still, it is nice to have people come by the jewelry store on Charles Street there and see the jewelry store, and then we advertise on television, and they find out, okay, that's where those guys are. So if you don't have that traffic, you may run into a problem with not having new customers. You have your old customers, and they, by word of mouth, tell people, and they come to you. But you notice some companies, there's been some other jewelers that had moved out of downtown to get to where the traffic was. We just have never had to do that because we stayed busy enough because of what we did, rather than going around and going out and chasing the traffic.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if downtown completely went bust and Murray's Jewelers was still there,
Right.
I think we'd still be doing okay,
Yeah.
just because people coming to us because of what we do.
Yeah. So it becomes a destination. It becomes a place that people want to go to. I mean, that's been my experience.
Yeah.
I want to go there because I know there are people there who can do the kind of work that I would like to have done or my wife would like to have done.
Yeah, and when the customers come in, they know they're going to be talking with a Murray.
Right, right.
And
Yeah.
and that is very nice. I have some customers, Warren, that have come in and have said to Ryan or James, they'll hand them this engagement ring and say, Ryan, your great-grandfather sold us this engagement ring,
Right, yeah.
and now we need it serviced.
Yeah.
And that's just priceless. That
Yeah.
That customer really loves the idea that it's still a Murray that's going to fix their ring for them. And that story gets told, and then that old gentleman's grandson or so says, Grandpa, where'd you have that? Oh, I took it down to Murray's. They sold it to this, and they're still servicing it for us.
Yeah, right.
And the young guy says, well, guys, I'll probably just go in there too.
Yeah. Who's doing it? A guy named Murray. Okay.
Yeah,
Well, that was
another
the same
Murray.
3 generations ago. Yeah. Take me out, let's say 10 to 20 years. What do you see for Murray's Jewelers? How will it be the same? How do you think it might be different?
I think it'll be the same in the fact that there's still going to be Murrays there.
Okay.
I have 2 granddaughters.
Okay, all right.
They may be the 6th generation and maybe the first female generation of jewelry designers and manufacturers.
Yeah.
And how it will be different, I think, and it'll be the same also because we'll probably still be right downtown in our same location. It will probably change in the fact that we'll probably continue to move into the future as far as designing and manufacturing goes. We went from handcrafting, hand modeling wax models to CAD systems and CAM systems, and now I think the next move, and we're already starting to look into it, is with growing machines where they grow a wax model instead of milling a wax model. That will enable us to do more and more. I can see in the future, we've just kidded about possibly holograms being designed to where a person can come in and put a hologram ring on that we've designed for them, and they'll see it, but it's really not there.
Oh.
And then if they like that, then we'll create that and cast it then into gold, and they'll be able to put it on. So the future is exciting as far as the different manufacturing that we will be able to do. And again, since we are in our own building, we don't have to worry about somebody coming in and saying, you guys are losing your space. We're very comfortable that we're there, and we're going to be able to be there as long as we want to be there. And in the future, I think downtown itself is going to continue to get better and better, and I think we'll get better and better with the city. And so I see Murray's Jewelers being there at least into the 6th generation, maybe the 7th.
I hope that's indeed the case.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add to this very interesting story of a remarkable family business?
Well, no, I just appreciate the fact that that you're letting me put this out so that hopefully my grandchildren or other people that are looking at it and other people, students that look at a small company and say, what is it that made them be successful for 5 generations? And if one thing that I can say to them, if they're going to start a business, try to differentiate themselves from their competition. And that's what we've done with the manufacturing and the craftsmanship, is that not very many of the jewelers do what we do.
Right, yeah.
And so hopefully this story can go a long way into a young entrepreneur that's wanting to open up a company, and the importance of being different than his competition. And also, if anyone's thinking about doing that, keep in mind too, there's going to be a lot of extra hours when you're your own manufacturer. I mean, my wife and my 2 sons were in the jewelry store yesterday, and that was a Sunday. Store's closed, but we're in there working. But then that's what you have to do if you're really going to stay ahead of the pack.
Yeah, I would agree. Well, thank you very much for sharing this quite remarkable story with us.
You're welcome, Warren. Thank you.